Hot Stove host. Good evening and welcome into the Hot Stove Cast. I'm the Hot Stove host, Zach Simon. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 113. Yes, the 13th episode of the first season. Fantastic show lined up for you today. Not one, not two, not three, but 4 interviews ahead. AA Hardford Yard Goats closer and Rockies relief prospect Matt Pierpont out of Winthrop University joins the program. Speaking of the Colorado Rockies, Coach Jerry Weinstein, who is embedded in the organization, he was the Yard Goats head coach last season. Coach Weinstein is also the Team Israel World Baseball Classic head coach, as well as the Team USA Olympic assistant coach in 1992 and 96. Tyler at Avocado Baseball. You may have heard this song, you may have not. Braves Country. He created a song called The Biddle. It's about Jesse Biddle based on Zed's The Middle. It's fantastic. He's in 3rd grade. He created this fantastic music video. Interview with him. Yes, never interviewed a 9-year-old before, but I don't know how old he is, but he must be close to that. But here we are. And lastly, Mary Krogh, the official handler of the Hartford Yard Goats Goats, joins the program to talk about the goats that represent the Hartford Yard Goats. So yes, amazing show lined up for you ahead. Let's just dive right into it. I don't have a lot of time to spare here. My favorite segment upcoming, Wild Pitch.
Just a bit outside.
All right, full disclosure, Ballpark Chowdown might be my favorite segment because not only do I get to go to the park, I get to eat as well. However, Wild Pitch is undoubtedly the most fun segment of the show, so let's just dive right into it. Alert, alert, alert. Yes, the Mobile Bay Bears, the AA affiliate of the Los Angeles Angels in Alabama, is moving to Madison, Alabama, and you know what that means. There is going to be a name change, and the Madison, Alabama squad has whittled it down to 5 choices. So here are your choices. Get your votes in by Labor Day, okay? The Comet Jockeys is choice number 1, and they have descriptions, so I'll read you the descriptions as well. Rocket City was put on the map for its cutting-edge aerospace development. Comet Jockeys is a celebration of our brave astronauts who explore outer space. Choice number 2, Moon Possums, a scavenger at heart. These local critters are known for hanging around and having a good time with their family, just like going to a ball game. Space Chimps, choice number 3. A tribute to Miss Baker, one of the first animals safely launched into space. She is buried on the grounds of the U.S. Space and Rocket Center nearby. The Thunder Sharks, choice number 4. Mix the powerful thunder of North Alabama storms with the ultra-strong, sleek determination of the shark, and you end up with the personality of our community, willing to attack any problem. Visiting teams won't mess with our Thunder Sharks. I have a feeling that might win. I don't know. It just seems like it fits. But this is my personal choice, personal favorite, and we shall see. Choice number 5. Trash pandas. Yes, trash pandas. Slang for raccoon. It's commonly known for engineering. Or their community, rather, is commonly known for engineering. And no creature in our galaxy is as smart, creative, determined, and ingenious a problem solver dedicated to the challenge at hand as our local raccoons. So much to dissect there. Oh man, I don't know if it beats a dolphin, but maybe mammals. I don't know. But Trash Panda is fantastic. I hope it's either Thunder Sharks or Trash Pandas. At the end of the day, though, you need to figure out which makes the best mascot, and possums, chimps, sharks, or pandas seems to be the best. Although it is the South, Comet Jockeys kind of works out too. Who knows? This is a really, seriously, sometimes you get batches of names where it's like, oh, that's a clunker or that's a clunker. No, this is a tremendous list, so be on the lookout for the new name of the Madison, formerly Mobile Bay Bears, AA affiliate of the Los Angeles Angels. I'll be sure to post that on my Twitter at HotStoveCast. Give me a follow there. So I've got news out of Tampa Bay, okay, about Carlos Gomez, who's more slick than we give him credit for. I have a quote here, okay? Quote, as one of the games neared its end, he tossed a ball to one of the women, according to sources nearby, who clearly saw the baseball had a phone number written on it. Witnesses seated behind the women, this is plural, by the way, 2 women, asked if the pair were dating Gomez and Rays shortstop Willie Adames, who kept peeking his head out of the dugout to see what Gomez was doing. The female fans, who didn't give their names, said they had never met the players. Good for Carlos Gomez. That must have been done 100,000 times before to to write your phone number on a baseball, big leaguers, that has to, I mean, come on. Okay. So let's move on here. Diamondback broadcasters were having a little fun ahead of the broadcasters, and one of the broadcasters really was feeling the song on the stadium PA.
Arizona Diamondbacks. What in the world? Great song. Welcome back out to Chase Field. Clay Buchholz has taken the field and ready to roll. Let's take a look at the lineup for Mike Scioscia and the Angels, game number 128 at 63.
Hey, the man's passionate. It is a good song, but I must say the broadcaster did apologize for the air. Moving on to other broadcasts here, Rajay Davis was placed on the 10-day disabled list with what the graphic showed as a, quote, non-baseball medical condition, end quote. I'll let the broadcast take care of the rest.
Activated from the DL today, Rajay Davis was placed on the 10-day disabled list. He's dealing with a case of, why can't I think, I'm blanking out here. Hemorrhoids.
Probably not something you necessarily want publicized. It was on the graphic as, quote, a non-baseball medical condition, end quote. But it made for a comical moment, predominantly because the broadcaster unleashed one of the best awkward pauses of all time. But let's move away from hemorrhoids and move on to Pablo Sanchez. Happy birthday to Pablo Sanchez. It was 5 days ago. The GOAT was celebrated. Speaking of GOATs, I'm not sure how old he is. I don't think anybody knows how old he is, but I don't think, and please tweet me if you know otherwise. Have you ever played a video game with a player as dominant as Pablo Sanchez was in backyard baseball? I mean, seriously, you have to try not to get an extra base hit with him. You could hit the ball through the ground in the game, and he would hit it for a home run. It was seriously a once-in-a-century talent, Pablo Sanchez, revered in baseball lore. The only video game weapon similar I can really think of is Michael Vick in Madden, like 2004, back in his prime. Oh, man, was he fantastic. LaDainian Tomlinson, also in his prime, was a cheat code. But speaking of Pablo Sanchez, the Lansing Lugnuts the other day had a Pablo Sanchez portrait behind home plate, so that is some quality dedication right there. Onward here in Wild Pitches, we're beginning to wrap up. Tim Kirshen shared a funny story about an ex-college pitcher who's coaching a team of 12-year-olds. This pitcher and coach, ex-college pitcher, got tired of parents yelling at the kids for making outs. So what did he do? He made the dads come down and take BP against him, and he embarrassed them. And he, quote, said to the dads, quote, "Now you know how hard this game is," exclamation point, end quote. He said to the dads, quote, "So stop yelling at the kids," end quote. Good for that guy. That's man of the month material right there. And lastly here in Wild Pitch, something not necessarily hilarious, but I wanted to point out because I don't think I've ever seen this before. There's such thing as the hidden ball trick, but in an American Legion championship game, it was Delaware versus Nevada. Nevada pulled a tricky play where the pitcher basically feigned a pickoff attempt to second base, and he acted like he threw it into center field. He got really upset with himself, and the runner darts for third base. Pitcher throws to second, throws to third. Runner is tagged out. Now, in the midst of all this, the hitter is at the plate. He's signaling for the runner, go back to second, go back to second. But obviously, he was thrown out. So credit to Nevada for the ingenuity there. But let's move on to something else. Some other ingenuity, rather, as Matt Pierpont, closer for the Double-A Rockies, had something to offer in this interview where he basically could innovate all of minor league baseball for the better. It's a fantastic idea, and that, among other things, made this interview a really good time. It was a pleasure speaking with Matt right here. Joining the HotStoveCast is a 26th round 2013 draft pick out of Winthrop University. He's a member of the Colorado Rockies organization. He's the closer for the Double-A Hardford Yard Goats, and he's kind enough to give me a few minutes of his time. Matt Pierpont, how you doing? Thanks so much for your time.
I'm good, Zach. How are you?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Great talking with you. Now, let's dive right into it, Matt. You were quoted in 2017 as saying, quote, "I just think over the years I've matured and learned how to pitch. I've just simplified my approach and just focused on making pitches." Now, bear with me here. 2018, you have a 21% swinging strike rate. Are you familiar with swinging strike rate or whiff percentage?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't really look too much into that. I would have had no idea if you didn't tell me that.
Okay.
So that's about as far into it as I know.
Okay. Well, swing strike rate, you're familiar, is Basically, how many times you get guys to swing and miss, for those who don't know. But anyway, the next closest guy is at 18.7%. You literally have the highest whiff rate of everyone in AA and AAA. You've got a 2.31 ERA in 50 and 2/3 innings. What's clicking for you right now?
Honestly, the quote that I said in 2017 is really just hitting the nail on the head for me. It's just maturing and just pitching. I'm not a typical closer. I don't, throw hard like a lot of guys. So it's more for me. It's just making pitches and keeping guys off balance and throwing different pitches and different counts. And I just try to focus on executing one pitch at a time.
You got a new pitching coach in 2018 in Mark Brewer. You're posting we talked about your strikeouts and stuff. You're posting career best strikeout totals with an 11.72 strikeouts per 9. How has he positively, Brewer, impacted your game?
This is a second time in my career I've had him. He's just a really smart guy, just a smart baseball coach, really understands pitching. But I think the biggest thing for me is he gets me as a player and as a person, so we can work together, just keep it light. He knows, that I'm older and I don't always need as much love, I guess, from him or, as much coaching, but it's more, I can go to him anytime and ask a question like, what am I doing wrong here? What can I get better at? But he just kind of understands where I'm at as a player and just helps me make the small changes I need to bring my game to the next level.
So your former pitching coach, Dave Berber, said, quote, he's aggressive and that's what makes him special. He's just the type of guy that wants the baseball no matter what the situation. He's got great stuff. He wants to compete. You're currently the closer. What's your mentality on the mound?
Just one pitch at a time. I just try to execute one pitch. I know that, if you go and watch games, hitters are going to get hits. You're going to walk people. You're going to hit people. People are going to be on base, but it typically comes down to executing one pitch when you need to. So no matter what the situation is, I always feel confident in being able to just execute one pitch. No matter if I got myself into a bases loaded jam and I need to get a ground ball double play, I know that if I can just execute one pitch, I can get the result that I want.
I read that your changeup is your trusted pitch, so let's have a hypothetical here. 3-2 count. It's bottom 9. Bases are loaded. You've got a 5-2 lead. What are you throwing?
Depends on the hitter. Depends what I threw to get into that point. But I think what allows me to have the success that I've had is just knowing that any pitch that the catcher calls, I'm going to be confident that I can throw it for a strike, whether it's a fastball or a cutter or a changeup. I feel like I can execute that pitch. So I think that alone is why I'm able to have success, because there's no count, there's no pitch that I have to throw in any count.
Talking with Matt Pierpont, closer for the AA Hardford Yard Goats, right-handed pitcher. Matt, this is your 6th year in the minors. What's the biggest challenge you've had to overcome in your time in the minors?
Man, I got hurt my very first season in 2013. I strained a muscle in my back and missed some time. Just coming back from that, I had elbow surgery last February, just minor surgery. But I think the injuries are tough to come back from, because when you're watching and not getting to play, it's frustrating. But I think just the mental grind of minor league baseball is probably the hardest thing that I've had to overcome. Just learning to deal with the ups and downs, and there's going to be success and failures. But just being able to change my mindset when you're facing hard times, or when you're failing, when things aren't going right, and being able to evaluate and see why that's happening, and then being able to change, because everybody's gonna I'm gonna go out there sometime and get hit around the ballpark. It happens to everybody, but being able to just look at it and figure out why that happened is really probably the biggest challenge that I've had to deal.
Who's the toughest batter you've ever faced?
Ever faced? Rafael Devers last year when he was here was really impressive. Guerrero this year was really good. I faced Ichiro in spring training this spring training, so that's the biggest name. That was pretty cool. But
what's going through your mind when you're pitching Ichiro?
just try to stop thinking about that you're pitching to Ichiro and just try to make a pitch. I mean, when you see him walk into the box, it's like I know exactly who it is, but just try to act like you're throwing a bullpen and not, pitching to him. That's probably the hardest thing to do.
Talking with Matt Pierpont, prospect in the Colorado Rockies organization. He's a pitcher for the Double-A Yard Goats. Matt, I don't usually ask this because I get a lot of the same reaction. However, you were a 26th round draft pick, okay? Yeah. Take me into that moment. Did you expect to get drafted?
I hoped to. I guess I didn't really expect to. I thought that I would. I thought I had a good chance, but there was no guarantees. I'd talked to, a lot of teams. But I thought it would happen, but, I was, I guess, as mentally prepared as I could have been to not get drafted. So it was tough. That was a day 3. I think there's 3 days on the draft. So, yeah, day 3, that was a long day. Just kind of my family was there just waiting for, your name to be called. So it was a long, stressful day, but at the end of the day, it worked out.
And when it finally happened, can you explain the euphoria all of you were?
I actually – they take a break after the 25th round, and I got up and I actually went to my room, and I think I just went to the bathroom and I was about to come back out, and it started again. I didn't hear my name being called, but my parents did, and I heard their reaction. So it was just pretty cool to walk out and have that time with them. So it was pretty cool.
It's awesome. Talking with Rockies Double-A closer Matt Pierpont. Matt, you talked about your parents. Speaking of home, it's Cannonsburg, Pennsylvania. Yeah. I hear that your mom makes dynamite lasagna. Matt, I need details. What is in her lasagna?
So my mom is from, she's 5'3". She's from a little Italian family, one of 7 kids. So she's always been, cooking her whole life. And I have no idea what she does to make it the best. But when we have our family get together on Christmas Eve, her and her sisters all bring their own lasagnas, and it is my mom, but I think that hers is just the best one. I don't know, maybe it's just the love, who knows, but it's great. It's I kind of want it now. I want to go home, but I'll have to wait for that.
Is it like meat? Is it like what?
It's meat. Yeah, it's meat. It's dang, I don't even know. It's not
Matt, come on, dude.
I don't have to make it. I just eat it. It's meat. I mean, I guess it's your typical lasagna, but it's homemade, so it's better.
Always better homemade. Matt, so besides hailing from the same town as Wiz Khalifa, what is your experience with goats?
Absolutely nothing. Literally nothing. When in 2016, when we were named the Yard Goats, I got asked all year, like, what do you think about the name? What do you think about the name? What do you think about the name? And it's interesting, like, that's all I could say. It's interesting, but it's incredible how much people, like, gravitate toward it, and they love it. And, hats off to the Yard Goats because they did just a great job in, picking that, but then just kind of embracing everything that goes along with it.
It really is a special name. Speaking with Yard Goats closer, Matt Pierpont. Matt, have you ever done goat yoga?
I have not. I've done yoga a couple times. It's not my thing. It's really hard. I'm dripping sweat. I'm not a very flexible person, so it's not the most fun. I'm normally forced into doing it, but no, I have not done goat yoga. Not yet, at least. Not yet.
I've always wanted to do that. I see they have it here, and I want to make the pilgrimage, do some goat yoga, Matt. But anyway, this is about you, Matt. If you could be any animal you wanted, which would you choose?
Oh, that's an interesting question. We actually had this talk lately because there's a lot of talk about. My buddy said that he wants to be an orca. He thinks that that's the best. I don't know. I think an eagle would probably be pretty cool. You could fly. They're pretty majestic, too. That'd be cool. I mean, I guess I'd go with an eagle. It's good. It's good for me. Yeah, Winthrop Eagles. That works.
Yeah, there you go. Winthrop Eagle. Matt Pierpont. Matt, if you could have any animal as a pet that's not a cat or a dog, which would you choose?
If I could have any animal, I'll just go into a pass. I actually had turtles when I was in high school and college. I found a turtle before a high school baseball game, and I kept him. And so I had him for like I don't know, 6 years or something, and then I gave them to my little cousins. And my roommates found other turtles when they were golfing, so I owned 3 red-eared slider turtles. So that was had a huge tank in our college house, and it was kind of interesting, I guess. So that's a pretty good story.
Matt, the Yard Goats recently unveiled beer bats, very recently. You can fill your beer bat with any cold one you want. What's your go-to brew?
My go-to beer is a Yingling. It's my favorite one, a Pennsylvania beer. So I don't know, it's just it's my favorite.
Music to my ears. I'm a Philly guy. Right there you go, Matt. Also from Canonsburg, Jonathan Letterman. I don't know if you've heard of him. Probably not. He's the father of battlefield medicine. Okay, he made a name for himself during the Civil War era. This is random, but you yourself studied a medicine of sorts, exercise science, right? Yeah. Taking care of the body. Yeah. How is studying that positively influenced your ability to train and preserve your body?
Oh man, it's a grind. The minor league season is a grind, and just pitching hurts. Like, it's just not a natural thing to do. So, learning to take care of your body and making sure that you're able to perform every night is probably the quickest thing that you have to learn. Because in college I pitched once every 7 days, and now it's I throw all the time. So just being able to know what I need to do for my body to be ready to throw. So, having that background in college and, the classes and stuff, it just forced me to do my own research and learn things for myself. And I think it's definitely helped along the way.
Speaking with AA Yard Goats closer Matt Pierpont. Matt, another Canonsburg nugget for you. Don Yanko is an American race car driver, and he's also known for creating the Yanko modified, basically souped-up Chevy Camaro. Okay. Now, I mentioned this because recently the Yanko Camaro Legacy unveiled a car that has 1,000 horsepower, okay? But I think it's pretty cool. I'm a car guy. But yeah. I mentioned that because you're in AA. You got long bus rides. If you could modify anything or two about the bus rides, what would it be?
So I somehow need to figure this out of making almost like an inflatable bed, but that it lays on top of the 2 seats and then goes into the foot space, so it has a flat cushion space that you can lay on. Because if you're lucky enough to get your own seat, you have 2 seats, so then you lay down, but then the seats are curved and it's digging into your back, and it's just not comfortable. There's no comfortable way to sit on a normal bus. So somehow, someday, I'm going to figure out how to make that, and it's going to save minor league baseball players' backs for the rest of time.
It's a great idea. You have kind of a diagonal bed of sorts. You need a seatbelt, obviously, but
yeah, just something I won't say. I guess seatbelts are not usually worn on the buses, but
if you're laying, you're playing with fire. But anyway.
But yeah. But just something to make it comfortable, because some guys will lay on the floor, but it's you're laying on the floor of a bus, and it's not it's hard. It's not comfortable. But somehow I'm going to create something sooner or later. I just got to find the right person to help me with it, and then it'll be great. You'll see it. It'll be on Amazon.
I may not have to post this in. That's a very good idea, Matt.
It needs to be done. It has to happen somehow.
Matt Pierpont, you heard it first. It's going to innovate the busing industry. I sure as heck never expected this on the show. But anyway, speaking of Matt Pierpont, closer for the Colorado Rockies AA affiliate Hartford Yard Goats. Matt, if you could drive, speaking of, sort of related, if you could drive any car you want, what would it be?
Oh, I've always loved Lamborghinis. Growing up, I was kind of I loved exotic sports cars, and that was always my favorite. So, and in spring training, Carlos Gonzalez has one. He has a black one, and then a couple years ago, Jason Mott had a white one. So just seeing those every day, I was like, man, that would be nice to have one of those.
Let's bring it back to baseball, Matt. You pitched in the Eastern League All-Star game this year. You had 2 strikeouts in 2/3 of an inning. How did it feel to be a part of that experience and to see your success validated?
It was fun. It was my first All-Star game, so it was a different experience. But it was fun getting to know some of the guys. But the game was competitive the whole game, and I think we're down 1 when I came into the game, top of the 9th, and gave up a leadoff triple, which is not ideal. But was able to make some pitches, like I said, and get out of it without giving up a run. We were able to tie it up in the bottom of the ninth, the next inning, and then we had like a interesting home run derby, like swing off thing to break the tiebreaker, and I think we lost. But it was it was fun. It was awesome. It was a cool experience to just be able to be a part of it, and then to have some success is that helps too. So.
Yeah, I was there. I saw it. It was a very competitive game, like you said. It was a fun game.
Yeah.
It ended in a 4-4 tie, and it went to this hit-off of sorts. And I don't know. I personally, I'm opinionated. I'm on the radio. I think it was an abomination, really. Yeah. What the hell was going on? I'm not even sure the people there knew what was going on.
I didn't know what was going on. That's for sure. So it's interesting.
Yeah. What'd you think of that? Would you do it in the future?
They got to do something, I guess. I was literally the last pitcher in the bullpen, so it's not like nobody's going back out there to throw. They got to do something. So, I don't know. Maybe next time make it more creative. I don't know. Let a pitcher hit or something.
There you got an idea. You segued perfectly into my last question. Wrapping up here with Matt Pierpont, closer for the Hardford Yard Goats, AA affiliate of the Colorado Rockies. Matt, speaking of hitting, let's say you're in MLB and the Rockies, need you for a couple innings and you got to hit. Yeah. Okay, you hit .449 in high school. Have you kept up with the bat? What would your approach be at the plate?
Actually, I don't hit that much. Last year was my best. If you look it up, I had I think it was like 5 for 11 last year hitting. So I did all right. But the more it's kind of like when I try to golf. The more I try, the worse I get for like a little bit of time. So right now, it's just like if I get in the box, it's just about having fun and just try to be on time and hope that I get a pitch to hit because they're supposed to get me out. But there's not as much pressure, so I can just kind of go out and have fun. So I enjoyed it last year. I'm 0 for 1 this year with a strikeout. It wasn't great. But maybe I'll get another shot before the end of the year. We'll see.
We shall see. Matt Pierpont, closer for the Colorado Rockies, AA affiliate, the Hartford Yard Goats. Thank you so much for your time.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Really fantastic having promising prospect Matt Pierpont on the show. He's got that swing and miss stuff, but he doesn't have overpowering stuff, which makes for a really interesting profile of a guy who's still has youth on his side. 20 years ago, if you were 27, they would have wrote you off. But in today's game, you've got guys like Ryan Madsen in his late 30s throwing 95 miles an hour. Maybe a guy like Matt Pierpont discovers that extra gear. And man, if he pitches this well now and finds that gear on top of that, watch out for Matt Pierpont. So again, pleasure having him on the show. Speaking of Matt, I brought on his coach from last year, Coach Jerry Weinstein, who is a hugely and widely respected coach in the international baseball coaching community, of course, baseball coaching community. He spoke about Matt and a variety of other things, including his innovations to the game of baseball. This guy is like a pioneer of the game. And I want to warn you, I spoke to him for about a little more than 20 minutes. First 10 minutes or so are hugely, I don't want to say hugely, but they're very technical. We talk about like radar gun usage, effective velocity, very statistical oriented and like talent evaluative oriented. So if you're not into that kind of stuff, I respect that. Feel free to skip on through to a later part of the interview where we talk more about the fun stuff, the lighter side of the coaching stuff. But nonetheless, it was a blast speaking with Coach Weinstein, who is a wealth of knowledge. He has, I talk about it, a thirst for information that is practically unmatched. He wrote a book. Find him on Twitter at JW on Catching. Really sensational subject, and I'm so happy to bring him to you on this show right here. Joining the HotStoveCast is an assistant coach for the United States men's baseball Olympic teams in the 90s. He's the head coach of the Team Israel World Baseball Classic squad. He's a member of the American Baseball Coaches Association Hall of Fame, and he's a part of the Colorado Rockies organization. Coach Jerry Weinstein has kind of joined the program. Coach, thank you so much for your time. How are you?
I'm well, Zach, and you?
Good, thank you. I really appreciate your time. Coach, let's just dive right into it. I had Matt Pierpont on the show, and you coached him the last 2 years. Now, from what I understand, you help oversee part of the Rockies player development in the minors, so I, of course, assume you're familiar. Pierpont's a guy who's taken a great leap forward this year. He leads AA and AAA in swinging strike percentage. His strikeouts are way up. What is it about Matt's game that sticks out to you?
Well, he's a tough guy, and he's confident. He's not afraid. He goes right after hitters. He's got plus command, but he's got a swing and miss changeup and a plus cutter, and not an elite raw arm strength type guy, but he knows how to pitch, and he can really control hitters' end speed, and he's really a good athlete as well.
Coach Weinstein, I briefly hinted at this. From what I understand, you're a part of the Rockies player personnel development program, if you will. What are your responsibilities with the Rockies currently?
Well, what I do, I'm kind of like a special advisor in player development and scouting. I'm getting ready to go to instruction league. I'll run through the farm system to see players or whatever our farm director Zach Wilson wants me to do, and then I'll go to spring training and help out wherever. And then in the spring, early spring, I go to I'll see all the top catchers in the country and line them up for our scouting director Bill Schmidt. And then during the summer, I cover the Cape Cod League. And this summer, last year I managed in the Eastern League. And this year I helped coach in Cotuit. I coached the pitchers and the catchers in Cotuit in the Cape Cod League, and then helped cover the league for our scouts.
Coach Weinstein, I have a quote here from Mike Scioscia. It's, quote, Jerry Weinstein is one of the best catching instructors in baseball. In this book, regarding your book, he has succeeded in breaking down the fundamentals of the position in a way which is easy to understand and applied to a young catcher. From analysis of the mechanics of catching to his innovative drills, this book is a must-read for catching coaches and their athletes. That's Mike Scioscia, manager of the Angels and a catcher himself. Coach Weinstein, respectfully, catching is kind of an anomaly of a position. It's underappreciated in that there's so much strategy, and it's I said it's underrated. It's basically the most important position on the diamond, unless the pitcher kind of calls his own game. Can you provide a brief summary of what you feel are the most important things that make an effective backstop?
Well, let me just say one thing about catching. I think on any given day, there's three guys that are going to determine whether you win or lose, have the greatest impact on the win or the loss, and that's the pitcher, the catcher, and the umpire. And the catcher impacts both the umpire and the pitcher. I think that probably catchers are being more and more appreciated in today's game because of the analytics and the value of especially the receiving piece of catching and the impact it has on the season. And it's in any game, there's somewhere between 18 and 36 what I call for balls. It could be strike and could be a ball. The average catcher gets about 18, and then the elite guys, they get more. And over the course of a season, it could be the difference between 3 or 4 wins in a season just based on how they receive the ball. And so that piece of the puzzle is really important in the day. It used to be, well, he can catch and throw. Well, throwing has become the third most important skill in catching. Not that you can have a guy back there that just can't throw, but with the decrease in stolen base attempts and again from an analytic standpoint, the lack of importance relative to wins and losses on that the stolen base has on the game, that's become a secondary, somewhat of a secondary skill. But that catching piece and then the game management piece is really important. The ability to manage a pitching staff of 12 or 13 different personalities, all have different skill sets, and being able to get the maximum out of those guys is really a developed skill.
Speaking with Jerry Weinstein, a member of the Rockies organization, Coach Weinstein, from what I understand, you have a very unique background as far as pioneering kind of the way analyzing the game of baseball goes, and we're going to get to that. But you mentioned analytics, and I have a quote here I want to read. Quote, I read something every day. It might be Hardball Times, Baseball Prospectus, or something on the internet like Fangraphs.com or SportsTechie.com. How much do you value, end quote, how much do you value sabermetrics in determining future talent relative to other talent evaluation methods?
Well, it's a piece of the puzzle. The boots on the ground are important, but also the numbers are important. And, it's part of the game within the game. It's pretty esoteric relative to predicting future success, which is a really difficult skill. Because if you look at the landscape, probably 6 or 7% of all the guys who ever signed play in the big leagues. And our our goal is to sign guys who can be championship players in the big leagues. So it's very hard to predict, and it's a very fine line relative to being able to predict what future performance is going to look like, especially when the playing field at the amateur, and especially high school and college level, is a lot different than the landscape in the big leagues, and certainly in the minor leagues, it's a lot different too.
Coach Weinstein, you were quoted as saying, "quote I've been an information junkie my entire life." What do you attribute your thirst for information to?
Lack of ability, lack of playing ability. Early on I found my niche, and I figured, the man with the most information wins, and the man with the most information that uses it wisely wins. And it's not how much of what you know; it's how much of what you know you can apply to the development of the individual players. And a big piece of that is, I've been doing it a long time. I got a big file cabinet of failures and some successes, and I've got information, and then my job is to filter that information, then apply it properly to each individual player who have a different skill set, a different mindset, and that's really the key to teaching and development, is adjusting to the individual differences of your athletes.
All right, this one's a two-parter, so bear with me. So in 1940, Bob Feller, the infamous or famous or whatever you want to call it, motorcycle test, they could not measure velocity of pitchers back then. Do you believe Bob Feller threw more than 100? It looked like 95 to me. And, Coach, in the mid-'70s, you're in your early 30s, and you decided to get your hands on a radar gun that police use to track speedsters, right, to measure pitcher velocity. Now, that's mainstream, of course. That almost seems like just it's mainstream. Were you the first to do it at the time? Because from what I read, people were looking at you like you had two heads.
Well, I wasn't the first, because, as a matter of fact, I was at a minor league game in Sacramento, and I want to say a Texas Ranger scout had a Decatur radar gun, and so when I saw that, but in 1969, I had a cousin who was staying with us. He was actually, a rocket scientist. Well, he was really a rocket scientist. He was going to Caltech to get his advanced degree, and so he and his wife stayed with us in Southern California. And he's, "Hey, what can I do for you?" And I said, "Well, I'd really like to track velocity. I think that if we can do that, it would be really, really a good tool to evaluate pitchers." And he says, "Well, let me see what I can do." And he built this elaborate setup with all these cables and uprights, and was wood and LED lights. And of course, the first time we used it, my guy smashed it. But I've always been one that wants to quantify. I think we do a lot of gut feel, and we use our eyes, and which is important. I think that's important. But the more you can quantify performance, swimmers, runners, they quantify it. We know they're running faster, right, they're jumping higher, and why? Because they're measuring it. And if you don't measure it, you can't improve it. And just using your eyes is not good enough. And that's why high-speed video is really, really becoming very much in vogue now. So we can really see, the hand is quicker than the eye, but 1,000 frames a second don't lie. And so, in that sense, being able to quantify was important to me. But when I first got it, I got a lot of weird looks, like, the next thing he's going to X-ray people and so on. So, well, hey, whatever. But 10 years later, everybody was packing a radar gun, and because they were able to quantify arm strength.
You mentioned the importance of numbers, and those who listen to this show know I like to talk about numbers a lot. I even mentioned at the top how Matt Pierpont, closer for the AA Hardford Yard Goats, leads AA and AAA in swinging strike percentage. Really impressive stat for a guy who, like you said, does not throw that hard. It speaks to his ability to just simply pitch. But anyway, moving on here with Coach Weinstein, author of the Complete Handbook of Coaching Catchers and a member of the Rockies organization. Coach, from what I understand, you were on the cutting edge of mental training for baseball players at Sacramento City College. You utilize Psycho-Cybernetics, written by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, as well as The Inner Game of Tennis by Tim Galway. You even used the works of Harvey Dorfman. Anyway, my question is, Baseball's a grind, okay? It's a long season filled with ups and downs, and you have a bountiful amount of coaching experience. And we just talked a little bit about analytics. What's your take on staying sharp, the mental part of the game through the season? Because that's respectfully, in my opinion, possibly the least measurable thing when it comes to analytics.
Well, the guy that really impacted our approach to the mental game was Ken Revisa. Ken just passed away just less than a month ago, and he was the guy that really defined the process and had a system for developing the mental game. It wasn't just a general, hey, we need mental toughness and you got to have focus and this and that. He had a real specific plan for it, and he had the greatest impact on the mental game in baseball. And I used to always tease Ken and say, yeah, Ken, he says, this game is 95% physical and 5% mental. And he says, yeah, whatever. I said, but that 5% mental controls that 95% physical. And I honestly do believe that we talk about our 5 tools, but probably the most important tool is makeup, because that unlocks that toolkit. And you just can't count the number of people who could have been good if. There's nothing more common than a man with talent who has failed, and they fail because of mindset and the mental game. And Ken really unlocked the toolbox there relative to mental game, and put people in a position to have a specific plan to maximize what they got, getting the most out of what they got on a particular day. And it's not easy, and it's a little bit esoteric term that I used before, but it's not. It's hard to put your finger on it, but when you find a person that's got a good mindset, and not only a good mindset, but also a growth mindset as well.
Okay, so mental, physical. It's really amazing, and we're still going over the pioneering, if you will, of the game. You were at the forefront of so much of this stuff, and I read something that I can't even begin to wrap my head around. You have to explain it to me. Something called the value of sensory deprivation in teaching pitchers. What is that, Coach Weinstein?
Well, it's just, we learn a lot of different ways. Some people learn visually, auditorily, or through talk, and then others through feel. And the kinesthetic feel is heightened when you don't have vision. So it's just kind of a touch and feel thing relative to altering your mechanics or your performance.
Okay. Well, from what I read, Coach Weinstein, you're very much a teacher as well as you are a coach. Moving on here with Coach Weinstein, you can find him at WeinsteinBaseball.com. He's a member of the Colorado Rockies organization. Coach Weinstein, you talked about pitchers. You were on the ground floor of learning effective velocity from Perry Husband's 10-year research project. Now, I'm not 100% certain what I'm about to say is in the same realm, and please correct me if it's not, if I'm not on base. But in regard to effective velocity, so you've got pitchers who throw 98, but it's a flat 98, and you can see it. And then you've got guys who throw 93 that look like 98. We're basically valued higher than the guy who throws the flat 98. What goes into that deception? How can a guy achieve that deception as far as throwing a pitch 92 that looks like 99?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. Number one, not all 98s are 98. Velocity or effective or relative velocity, whatever term you want to use, and Perry was a pioneer in this area and continues to be, is based on the actual velocity plus the location. When the ball gets elevated and gets moved closer to the hitter, it requires faster reaction time. You got to catch it a little farther out in front to square it up. And when it's lower and it's farther away, then it loses velocity. It could lose as much as 10 miles an hour, depending upon the location. So a 90-mile-an-hour fastball could actually be perceived more like an 80-mile-an-hour fastball, or it could be perceived more like a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, yet they both read 90 on the radar gun. The other thing is that we're finding that, especially with TrackMan and Rapsodos and things like that, that spin rate plays into this. The fastballs with the higher spin rate have less perceived drop. They look like they're going to come down as a result of the pull of gravity, but they don't come down as much because of the high spin rates. And so that spin rate and spin axis also factors into that.
Okay, Jerry, respectfully, I think if you don't mind speaking into the phone just a little bit more there, no worries. Okay, so moving on here with Coach Weinstein, member of the Colorado Rockies organization, catcher coaching extraordinaire, and he has so much coaching experience. I can't, if I even began to try to cover all of it, I'd literally need another 5 minutes. But anyway, moving on with Coach Weinstein. Inside Edge, okay, they worked with you at the USA Pan Am Games a few decades ago. And that helped the United States beat Cuba for the first time in 20 years. Now, Cuba's this team where they don't have like the bountiful amount of prospects like the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico even per se. But Cuba churns out extraordinarily talented individuals. So for this feat to happen is really remarkable. You were, again, a pioneer of this process. This Inside Edge is becoming more mainstream now today. The NFL even picked it up a few years ago. For those who don't know what Inside Edge is, can you please tell us a little bit about it?
Well, it's an information gathering business that gathers that tracks every pitch, velocity, location, and it's more. I work. I work with them rather than they work with me. In '87, and also in '87, Cuba had phenomenal players. Probably as many, not as many necessarily because it's a small island, but the high quality players that they had on that team in '87 and continued through the early '90s. But the fact of the matter is, we were able to beat them in the round robin in the Pan Am Games in Indianapolis, and then they beat us in the gold medal game. But Inside Edge had a significant impact on what we did because they were again quantifying what hitters did to particular pitches. They had spray charts, and they've developed into a huge information gathering system, very much like baseball information solutions, and there's a number of companies like that. But to me, Inside Edge is right on the forefront. They're on the cutting edge of baseball analysis of baseball stats relative to predicting performance. And they have a research and development guy named Kenny Kendrena, and Jay Donchis and Randy Estrie were the innovators that started the business, and then they brought Kenny Kendrena in, and they've done tremendous things. A lot of big league teams, colleges. They do a lot with broadcasters in terms of giving them a database, and a lot of the stuff you hear stat wise on television is based on Inside Edge data.
Speaking with Coach Weinstein, you can find him on Twitter at JWon Catching. That's JWON Catching, or JW on Catching, rather. Member of the Colorado Rockies organization. All right, that's a lot of data. We went over all that. Let's move on to some more fun stuff, Coach Weinstein. So this is probably one of my favorite factoids about you. Well, actually, I'll get to that. It's my next question. But anyway, you were a history major at UCLA, okay? What part of baseball, it's a hugely historic game. Which part of baseball in the early days of watching ball what part of that still resonates with you?
Well, I was a double major. I was a history and a kinesiology major, and I got my master's in kines from UCLA.
Right.
But I like all facets of the game. As a matter of fact, I did a thesis. My undergraduate thesis was on the history of the African American in baseball, but I'm just a baseball junkie. I like all aspects of the game. I like the history of the game. I like the science of the game, the intricacies and everything. There isn't one part of the game I don't enjoy.
So at UCLA, you said you got your grad degree in exercise science as well, kinesiology rather. This is the part I was talking about earlier. You attended John Wooden's practices, okay, which is mind-boggling to me. I mean, that's the big time. That's as great as it gets. So my question to you is, it's kind of a two-parter. What did you learn from him, and what parts of his wisdom did you apply to your coaching style?
Well, I probably didn't know it at the time. But and I don't say I model myself after John Wooden because there's only one John Wooden. But we were in the fall. We practiced on campus on the intramural field, and we would our lockers were in Pauley Pavilion. And as a matter of fact, Pauley Pavilion was built when they destroyed in the same spot that the Joey Brown Field was, and so that was our old baseball field. And then we played our games at the VA, and so we'd work out and then go in and shower. And a lot of times they'd still be having basketball practice in there, and so I worked up enough courage to go into his office and ask him if it was all right to watch practice when we came in, and he said yes. And so just very businesslike, very simple, very incredibly organized. They didn't spend a lot of time on the court. It was 2.5 hours. They didn't do a lot of conditioning. They weren't running gassers after or foul lines or whatever they'd run, after practice. The practices were up tempo. They were practicing at or above game speed. It was very organized, and it was there was not a lot of yelling and screaming. Matter of fact, there was none, and it's just very efficient overall. And so obviously, I don't know that I was able to apply because everybody has their own different personality, and I'm certainly not anything like John Wood, and I wish I could be. But it just was just efficient is probably the best term. Now, obviously, they had good players, but when they won their first national championship, Fred Slaughter was 6'5", and he was their center. They had a 6'2" forward. They had Keith Erickson was on that team, Gail Goodrich, and Freddie Goss. And I mean, it wasn't. It was a really good team. Those are all good players, but it wasn't similar to the Walton and Jabbar teams or Alcindor teams that came after that. But he was always very organized, very purposeful, no eyewash, no wasted time. Very good practice coach, and was not. He focused on his team. It wasn't big scouting reports and stuff like that. They have to play against us, and I learned, just by, and we went to all the games when I was an undergrad and going to graduate school. That was, just going to the games and seeing how the crossover from practice to games and how the games were being managed. It was really pretty. You could see that connection between practice and the games.
I don't want to deviate too much here, but that is an amazing, amazing story. And I just have one follow-up question for the Wooden part of this conversation. What was it about the in-game style of John Wooden that just placed him above everyone else? You obviously got to see him coach many games.
Well, he was an innovator. He was the first guy, especially with that, I want to say 65 team that they had a full court press, and they dictated the tempo of the game. They made the other team play against them, as opposed to them having, everybody had to adjust to what UCLA was doing based on their style of play.
Okay. Moving on here. Thank you for that. We're going to bring it back to baseball. Thank you, Coach Weinstein, author of the Complete Handbook of Coaching Catchers. You can find him on Twitter at JWOnCatching, and he's a member of the Colorado Rockies organization. Coach Weinstein, let's bring it back to your coaching. Like I said, you have a ton of experience, so I cannot possibly get to all of it, respectfully. But you had a 23-season run as City College's coach. You guided teams to an 831 and 208 record, okay, and you went to 16 conference championships. What do you preach as far as clubhouse cohesion goes, promoting good chemistry?
Well, get the right players on the bus in the right seats. That's number one. It's all about the quality of the people in your locker room. You get the right people in there, you're gonna have a good culture, and you're gonna have a win. But we had kind of a perfect storm. We had a lot of good players in Sacramento at that time, and most of them came to Sacramento City College. We had great internal competition. We had really good facilities. We had good coaches, and we were able to play a lot. We played a lot in the fall. We would have probably 60, 65 guys in our program in the fall. We divide them up to 2 teams, and we played outsiders on every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, doubleheaders. So we were playing, close to 200 games between the 2 teams all fall, from the 1st of September till a week before Christmas. So we were able to practice on and we went pretty much 7 days a week, much to the dismay of my wife and family. But we spent a lot of time on the field, and we had good players, and they competed against one another, and we had a good plan and really good help and good facilities. Just everything fell into place during that 23 and a half year time.
You mentioned having great guys in the locker room to kind of make for great success. Okay. You were the coach of Team Israel at the World Baseball Classic, and stay tuned later in the show, folks. I will get into more of that, but moving on here with Jerry Weinstein. I mentioned that because Cody Decker, okay, he was a member of the 2017 Team Israel squad, and he supplied something called a mensch on a bench. And I know all the Jewish listeners out there are cracking up right now. Okay, I have quotes from Cody Decker, okay? Quote, "Every team needs their Jobu," Decker said. "He was ours. He had his own locker, and we even gave him offerings. Manischewitz, Gelt, and Gefilte Fish. I tried getting him a first-class ticket," Decker said, "but that didn't fly, so he was put in a duffel bag and checked." Okay. So, Coach Weinstein, who has the biggest personality among the players you coached, or two players, if you want to mention, among the players you've coached over the years, and what made them memorable?
Oh, gosh, I'm really bad at singling out players, but, and our deal in Sacramento, it was all team, and so there weren't any big personalities necessarily that stood out. It was all, everything was about the team and playing for one another, and so I don't think we, that was a piece of the puzzle at that time. Certainly, I had a 1 year, 1988, we had a little shortstop that really drove the engine for us, a young man named F.P. Santangelo, and played in the big leagues. Now he's the color broadcaster for the Washington Nationals. And, everybody kind of blended together, and it wasn't about, one guy standing out. I mean, if you saw our teams played, pretty much everybody looked the same. Everybody played at their best speed. Everybody played hard. Everybody ran hard. Everybody worked hard. There weren't any bat flips or home run trots. I guess some people thought, well, that's pretty robotic, but we had our standards and our way of playing, and we always seemed to be our best players were our best guys, and that's how you have good team culture and championships.
Beginning to wrap up here with Coach Jerry Weinstein of WeinsteinBaseball.com, author of the Complete Handbook of Coaching Catchers, and a member of the Colorado Rockies organization. Coach Weinstein, I know you said you don't necessarily want to single out players, and I respect that, but I have to ask, respectfully, you've coached for a long time, can you name 3 players? I'm not going to have you name you're the best, most talented guy you've ever coached, but who are the 3 most talented guys you have coached in your opinion?
Well, I mean, we had 30 plus big league players at Sac City, and obviously coaching for the Rockies, I've coached in the minor leagues and have had some really good players. I mean, Nolan Arenado was with me in Modesto, and he obviously really stood out, but there's just been so many. I just can't. It's hard for me to give you a list of 1, 3, or whatever. I mean, and a lot of our best guys never even played in the big leagues.
Okay, no worries. Let's move on then. Coach Weinstein, you're always trying to improve. You're always trying to learn more about the game, and you described yourself as, quote, a fairly keen observer, end quote. Obviously, you currently work for the Rockies. I don't want to get you in trouble, respectfully, but what present examples of teams, players, or coaches do you try to learn from?
Well, I learn from everybody. And there's an old saying, it says the smart man learns more from the ignorant man than the ignorant man learns from the smart man. You can learn from everybody.
Okay.
There's lessons to be learned everywhere if you pay attention.
Well said. Very well said. All right, last one here with Coach Weinstein. Are you familiar with I want to bring it back to the data real fast. Are you familiar with the 3D modeling, the virtual reality practice that teams are implementing? Have you gotten a chance to test drive that software? From what I understand, there's tech out there that allows like players to like stand in the box, in virtual reality terms, like versus Corey Kluber, for example, to prepare for the game. How familiar are you with that?
Well, I am fairly familiar with that because our ex-GM, Dan O'Dowd, has a company. He works with Eon Sports down in Orange County, and they've developed a virtual reality hitting program that teams in Japan are using and teams in the United States are using, so that guys are getting at bats against the type of pitching or the exact pitcher that they're going to see in the game that day, so that they improve their pitch recognition skills and their ability to react to balls and strikes.
It's really staggering the amount of data that is available today. Coach Weinstein, thank you so much for your time. You can find Jerry Weinstein on Twitter at JWOnCatching. Go to his website, WeinsteinBaseball.com. Purchase his book, The Complete Handbook of Coaching Catchers. Coach Weinstein, thank you so much for your time.
You bet, Zach. Anytime.
Coach Jerry Weinstein, so interesting because not only is he a fantastic evaluator of talent, but I mention that because he's done it for decades and like more than 5 decades. And why is that a thing? Why is that important? Well, because the methods of evaluating talent in baseball have so quite literally done a 180 in the past about 25, 30 years. So for this guy to be as successful as he is, to have experienced all those facets of evaluation from the beginning of time when it was a little more archaic, respectfully, to now when they have so much data available, when, don't get me wrong, some of that older information is still very pertinent today, but to have that perspective on all of this is really special. And it was really amazing to have Coach Weinstein on the show. And I thank him again sincerely for his time. Moving on here in the HotStoveCast episode 113, I interviewed a kid, okay? I've never interviewed a 9-year-old, never expected to, but this kid is a different story. In the suburbs of Atlanta, a little more in the suburbs of Atlanta, about 4 hours away in Savannah, Georgia, this kid named Tyler created this video called The Biddle. And The Biddle is about Jesse Biddle, and it's so creative. It's literally a music video also. It's not just a song, okay? It's creative in that he took Zed's song and made it his own. And oh man, you just have to listen. I provided a little sample for you here. I will show you in the interview. I tell you where to go find it. But here's a little bit of a sample of his song as well as the interview with Tyler ahead.
Who needs a closer? There's nothing here to close. This game is over if you just let him throw. Oh baby, why can't y'all just pitch like Jesse Biddle? Maybe cut the walks down just a little. It's the bottom of the night. They batted through the lineup. Our lead is almost dried up. Why can't y'all just hit like Jesse Biddle? He rolls a fastball down the middle. 500 average Jesse Biddle. That's Jesse Biddle. Like Jesse Biddle. Maybe hold the dingers down a little. If you just pitch like Jesse Biddle. Jesse Biddle.
Joining the HotStoveCast as a Braves fan, you can find him on Twitter at Avocado Baseball. His name is Tyler, and he's the creator of the hit song, The Biddle. This interview is brought to you by Tyler's favorite ice cream parlor, the Ice Cream Stop in Richmond Hill. Tyler, thank you so much for your time. How you doing?
Good.
Thank you so much for joining the show. Now, this is from Jesse Biddle on Twitter, at Jesse Biddle63, quote, I haven't tweeted in a few years, but this is absolutely worth posting about. Hey, Avocado Baseball, anytime you want to come to a game, everything is on me, #ChopOn. Go to Tyler's Twitter at Avocado Baseball or Jesse's at Jesse Biddle63 to check out the music video, The Biddle. Tyler, question for you. What inspired you to do this?
My dad actually So we were just watching the Braves game one night. I just became a big fan of the Braves, and one night we were watching, and Jesse came on, and we were just thinking, wow, this really goes with this song.
And then you were just like, yeah, I want to create a music video, you know? I'm in 3rd grade, I just want to make it happen, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Tyler, if you could be any Atlanta Brave for a day, who would it be and why?
Jesse, because he's got a 2.59 ERA.
He's absolutely killing it.
Yes.
Moving on here with Tyler at Avocado Baseball. Tyler, Jesse invited you. He invited you to a game.
Yes.
Have you been to SunTrust Park yet?
Yes.
How is it?
It is a great place.
It's brand spanking new. Tell us a little bit about the stadium.
So you will have a little kids. You would have a little kid spot somewhere with a bunch of games and like a first base run, and then you'll have maybe a few shooting games, like the guns they shoot into the holes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff like that, and then you have the main field, you have the chop house. That's all that I can really think of.
I like to talk about food on the show. I assume the barbecue is fantastic down where you are. What food in the stadium was really good?
I ate a chili dog. I think those were pretty good.
Yum. Okay, moving on here with Tyler. And by the way, this interview is brought to you by the Ice Cream Stop in Savannah, Georgia, Richmond Hills Ice Cream Stop. Tyler, if you could have ice cream with any person, we're kind of jumping around here, Tyler, but if you could have ice cream with any person, it doesn't necessarily have to be a Brave, who would it be?
Freddie Freeman.
Great choice. So, respectfully, you can also say Jesse Biddle, but is Freddie Freeman your favorite Brave?
Yes, one of them.
Okay, one of them. Tough to knock you for that. Yeah, Freddie Freeman's an outstanding player. Tyler, I noticed on your Twitter that you follow a retired astronaut, a SpaceX engineer, and Neil deGrasse Tyson, among other space accounts. By the way, this is Tyler at Avocado Baseball, the creator of the hit song The Biddle. Tyler, what do you want to be when you grow up? Is astronaut in the cards?
Probably not. I just want to be an MLB player.
What position do you play in Little League?
Usually middle infield.
Are you like a power hitter? Do you hit for average? Are you drawing a lot of walks? What kind of hitter are you, Tyler?
I'm more of a contact.
Okay. Are you righty or lefty?
Righty.
Right-handed, maybe shortstop, possibly?
Hit shortstop or play shortstop or...
Well, you're telling me you're a middle infielder. I'm curious.
No, yeah, I occasionally play short, but...
Well, Tyler, you're 9 years old from what I hear. You've got your whole life ahead of you. You never know. It's possible. By the way, it is possible. I have to ask, in your music video, there are what look like friends wearing Dan Winkler and Julio Teheran masks. Who's wearing the masks? I want to give them their due.
That would be me and my friend Clayton, my next door neighbor.
How excited were you to see Jesse Biddle post this song on his Twitter page?
I honestly couldn't believe my eyes.
Tell me more.
Once I saw it, I was like, there's no way that I just got a tweet from Jesse Biddle saying that I can go to a free Braves game.
The man himself. He's got a 2.59 ERA, like you said. Just an incredible... Tyler, you did a fantastic job. So I have to ask, what is next for at Avocado Baseball? Are you doing another song? Who's the next one about?
We haven't decided that yet.
Okay. You got plenty of time. And this interview is brought to you by the Ice Cream Stop in Richmond Hills, Georgia. Tyler, I have good news for you. The Ice Cream Stop is going to provide you and all of your classmates with free ice cream. How does that make you feel?
No way.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. I'm going to work that out with your dad, and Bill at the ice cream stop. That's going to happen. How many kids are in your class, by the way?
23.
23.
Sure.
Okay.
23, 22.
Okay, we'll work it out. But yes, I've talked to Bill. It's going to happen. And that pretty much wraps things up here for this interview with Tyler at Avocado Baseball, the creator of the hit song, The Biddle. Tyler, thank you so much for your time, bud.
Thank you.
Ask yourself, what were you doing at 9 years old? And this kid, Tyler, wow. I mean, heck, wow. He's going to make some really creative, sensational projects in school when he grows up. And maybe he accomplishes his dream of playing baseball. How amazing would that be for him to make the big leagues and maybe even be a subject of the show one day on this minor league baseball interview podcast, but to make the big leagues and then show, whoa, rewind. What if he makes the big leagues and then faces Jesse Biddle? That right there would be like a quadfecta of universe karma. I don't know. It would be incredible. Hey, everybody can dream, you know. But wow, what the heck was I doing when I was 9? I don't even know. I can barely remember that, honestly. I know when I was 10, I went to New York for my birthday, but that, like, what was I doing when I was 9? Anyway, wow, like seriously, 9 years old, you're doing something like that. So great for Tyler. Happy to provide him and his classmates some free ice cream as well. Thank you to the ice cream stop in Savannah, Georgia for doing that. Really appreciate them. Moving on here to some things even younger than Tyler, but animals. Animals, okay? Fancy Pants is the official Yard Goats goat mascot, okay? And she's about 5.5 years old. And I went to the Yard Goats Stadium about a week or so ago, and in center field they have this kind, I don't want to call it an exhibit, but it's a pen full of goats where you can go see the goats for yourself, the official mascots of the Yard Goats, obviously. And oh my goodness, they're so adorable. In this interview, I joke about how I was messaging my friends about how I was going to literally stay in the pen the entire game and not even go watch the game. But Mary was kind enough, her name's Mary Krogh, she was kind enough to join the show and talk about the goats as well as a good cause to help pets in need in case of emergency. In Hartford, the Hartford Fire Department doesn't have pet resuscitation kits or enough of them. So the Yard Goats and Mary have decided to create an initiative where by this Saturday they want to raise $1,900 to erase that void. So without further ado, I've had monkeys on this show. Now I have goats. Who the heck knows what animal is next? But nonetheless, it was a pleasure to speak with Mary Krogh, the official handler of the Hartford Yard Goats. Joining the HotStoveCast is the owner of Circle K Animal Farm Attractions and the official handler of the Hartford Yard Goats Goats. Mary Krogh was kind enough to join the show and give me a few minutes of her time. Mary, how you doing? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and Zach, and I'm pleased to be on the show.
Great to have you, Mary. I understand the main goat, if you will, is named Fancy Pants, and they recently, you have a slew of goats that are patrolling center field. I understand you just named a couple more.
We did. We had some born 2 months ago. We breed all our goats, and they're we recently named them. It's Star and S'mores. Star is the little black one.
I assure you, these goats are adorable. Folks, I went to center field when I was there a week ago, and Mary was kind enough to let me in the pen and kind of have a little powwow with the goats. It's on my Twitter page at HotStoveCast. Search at HotStoveCast Goats on Twitter, and you'll be sure to find that. But Mary, fans can go see the goats in center field every game. Tell us more about the experience.
Sure. We've been with the team since day one. We were there when they named the team, the Yard Goats. And ever since then, Fancy Pants has been the Yard Goats Goat. Their logo is actually Fancy Pants. And we bring Fancy Pants to every home game, along with 3 or 4 others. And for the kids to look at, learn about, and it's quite an attraction. The Yard Goats is super because there's more than just baseball there.
Yeah, it really is a one-of-a-kind stadium experience, a la the goats in the for one. When I went in the pen, I was joking with my friends. I just wanted to stay there and miss the entire game. Those 2.5 month, now probably 3-month-old goats are so adorable. Holy cow. Mary, from what I heard, a couple years back, you were trying to teach the goats to run the bases. Any luck there?
We do. To teach a goat to do anything, you use grain. So my little granddaughter, Alexis, she takes a little pail of grain and she runs with them or does whatever we want to do. At home, they like swimming pool ladders. So we put grain on the top of the swimming pool ladder and they climb right up it.
Now, this is a total long shot, Mary, but some minor league baseball teams have dogs retrieve the bats and bring them back, as like a bat dog, for example. Do you even think there's a remote possibility the goat could eventually evolve into something like that?
They'll grab it. They love to grab anything. Will they retrieve it? No. They love keeping the things they retrieve, and they love eating things.
Well, it was worth a shot. What animal doesn't like eating things? Beginning to wrap up here with the official handler of the Hardford Yard Goats, Mary Krogh. Mary, a yard goat is actually a train, not a goat, right?
It's a locomotive, because where the Yard Goat Stadium used to be a freight company.
And in perfect... Yeah.
So that's why the name was picked. And then I'm sure, and I'm guessing, to entice people more, rather than promote a locomotive as their logo, they went with a goat.
And in perfect minor league baseball irony, you have the team name mean one thing, and you have a goat, an animal, represent the team. Mary, let's wrap up here, and I appreciate your time. Fancy Pants, by this Saturday, is raising awareness to fill a void of pet resuscitation kits with the Hartford Fire Department. You, the fans, can donate to the Yard Goats and help them achieve their $1,900 goal by this Saturday at 860-240-5520, 860-240-5520, and you ask for Tom Baxter. Mary, as we wrap up, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, just thank you and hope to see you at the game. I can't believe there's only 9 games left.
I know.
It went so quick, and it was such a great time. And we've made so many friends. We're going to miss them.
Yeah.
I hope there's some events during the winter to bring us all together.
They'll all be back next year, and Mary, I can't wait to come back and hang out with the Goats again next season. Thank you so much for your time. And again,
thank you.
Help the Goats achieve their $1,900 goal of getting pet resuscitation kits to the Hartford Fire Department and contact Tom Baxter at 860-240-5520. Mary Krogh, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Mary and the Yard Goats for facilitating all of that. Jeff Dooley, Dan Lovallo, and company. Oh my gosh, that stadium is such a blast. Get on up there. You get some Bears barbecue. It's outstanding. You get to go experience the Goats, and you get to watch some baseball with some pretty fantastic sightlines. I mean, and this stadium has if you're a Dunkin' Donuts fan, they have a legit Dunkin' Donuts on site. Well, this episode was really amazing and so much fun to do. I had a lot of interviews today. A little different from what you usually expect. No closing time today. Really nixed a lot of the segments to get all of these interviews in. It was so much fun to do, and thank you so much for listening. And next week, I'm looking forward to another fantastic episode. But please hit that red subscribe button underneath this YouTube video, or if you're on iTunes, Overwatch, whatever platform you use for podcasts, please hit subscribe. Check out my Twitter at HotStoveCast, Instagram HotStoveCast, Facebook page HotStoveCast for more content. And stay tuned. And please tweet me, message me, let me know what you like, let me know what you don't like, let me know what you want, and I'll be sure to try to deliver that to you. So again, thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you next week.
Great song.